So Evie and Colton, are you getting the agendas okay?
I haven't gotten the agendas, but I know how to get them through the website.
Okay, good. Okay, good. And they, very often, as a result of the work that we do earlier in the day, they get updated. So you might find fresh ones there too. So it's a moving target sometimes.
Mayor Beamish, you are live on YouTube and you have quorum.
I'm waiting for Councilor D'Andrade. Oh, there she is. I see her. Yep. There we go. Okay. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular meeting of council for January 18, 2022, being held electronically in the traditional territory of the Squamish Nation. I will call the meeting to order, time being 7:01, and I will acknowledge that we have with us tonight Alternative Youth Councillor Colton Rockford. And Colton, this is probably, I'm not sure, your second or third meeting with us. Yeah. So and Evie Clark, who's our regular youth councillor on right now. We have our members of Councillor Kroll, Councillor D'Andrade, Councillor Ladwig. Councillor Lumley is not with us tonight. I also acknowledge that there are a number of people in the attendee list from the regional district, and I welcome them. Welcome Chair Seegers and members of the regional board who are coming to support us tonight in our conversation about the budget. Well, I'll probably support Tina to make sure that we don't beat her up too badly. So that being said, I'll turn to council and ask for approval of the agenda for January 18, 2022. Councillor Kroll, thank you. And Councillor Ladwig, thank you. All in favor of approval? Thank you very much. I'll also ask for receipt of all reports and correspondence, and we don't have any bylaws, so just reports and correspondence on the agenda tonight. For receipt, Councillor Kroll, Councillor Ladwig, thank you. All in favor? Thank you very much. We have two heavy delegations tonight, so I don't want to disappoint them, so we'll get going right away. We'll ask firstly for the adoption of the minutes, section 3.1. These are the minutes of January 11, 2022. Somebody recommendation? Councillor D'Andrade, thank you. Councillor Kroll, seconded. All in favor? Okay. Any business arising from those minutes that council wants to bring forward? Okay, seeing none, as I mentioned, we have two delegations this evening. And the first one, I'm going to turn to Tina Perot, General Manager, Corporate Services and Chief Financial Officer for the Sunshine Coast Regional District. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you.
And I just want to introduce you, Tina, to Tracy Hinks, who's with us tonight as well. I believe you two know each other. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Good to see everybody. Well, sort of back there. I know I'm just seeing everybody in the council chambers. So
yes.
Thanks again for allowing us some time to present the budget. I'm just going to share my screen here.
Tina, is there anybody you want from the attendee list to be raised to the screen?
Well, I think that we do have, I believe, GM Remco Rosenboom in the background, and so he can answer any questions if there might arise. I believe that CAO Dean McKinley is also with us here. I don't know if there's anyone else in the attendees other than the SCRD board, so I think that's
If we could raise GM Rosenbroom and CAO as well, so they're on the screen, please.
I can't see the screen any longer now that there's a shared screen.
Yeah,
so
go.
let me know if
I can stop sharing if you like there, Rebecca.
Okay,
Sorry.
good.
That's okay. I can't see if they're there or not.
GM Rosenbroom is.
Okay, let me try again with Dean.
Yeah.
Maybe we ended our.
Sometimes I cannot get them. There he comes.
There he comes. Good.
You team, you can share your screen again now.
Yeah. Okay, welcome, Dean. Welcome, Remco. Okay.
All right, so here we are. So everyone can see the screen okay, I assume? So hopefully I have no delays in some of the presentations. So again, this is our presentation to the town of Gibsons regarding the SCRD's budget. And so tonight we're going to just provide an overview of the round one budget deliberations that concluded in December. We'll go through a little bit of the timelines and process. We're going to give a little information regarding utility rates for 2022, but again, this is mostly for some of the other ones, but this presentation has been catered specifically to the town of Gibsons to really narrow on the services. So thank you again for allowing us to give a little bit of an update there later this afternoon. We're going to give a little preliminary taxation information ahead of our round two budget deliberations, and provide a little community information and opportunity to ask questions from the council.
Thank you.
So as far as the SCRD's budget process and timelines, this year we started our budget with a community survey that started in September. That information included some very, general information about SCRD services, and it also tailored some of the questions depending on where you lived and answering those questions. Of course, knowing that in SCRD, it really is very relative to where you live as far as the services that you receive. So the results of those survey questions and status were provided at our budget deliberations, which were held on November 1st. And so at that particular pre-budget session, we provide the committee and the board with information of some of the upcoming projects and some of the status of the projects that are ongoing from prior years. And we also provided very extensive information related to the budget survey, which all of this can be found on our SCRD budget webpage if community members want some more information. We concluded our round one budget deliberations on December 13th and 14th of last month. And the first day really focused on our community partners and stakeholders, which include our libraries, the museum services, and a lot of our community schools and economic development type of entities. So right over the last couple of weeks, last week, we focused on rural area presentations. And this week we're focusing on the member municipalities, and we're able to do a presentation to the Seashell Nation on Friday afternoon. So our round two budget deliberations are scheduled for this Monday, January the 24th, and we're only scheduled for one day for that session, one day of agenda. And our final budget is scheduled to be adopted on February the 24th. So again, that's about a month earlier than our projected past timelines. So what's impacting this year's SCRD budget? At the start of round one, we were projecting, and this is not very dissimilar to what we announced during our pre-budget deliberations, is that we have about 147 projects from prior years that are anticipated to move forward or ongoing or continue on into the 2022 budget, along with approximately 90 new projects proposed for this year. These might be anything ranging from, capital types, projects operating, or even some of the staffing. We also had a number of budget items through our pre-budget deliberations that our board process delineates them as mandatory. And what that means is that they are required through regulatory compliance. We might have certain things that the Ministry of Environment requires us to do at our landfills. We might have some new WCB regulations that we need to include in our business processes. So, or we might have some assets that are about to fail. So we had one item that a roof was failing. So those particular items we really see as needing to be included in the budget, and they were reflected in the round one budget numbers. So one of the other things that is being proposed for 2022 is 16 additional full-time positions. And I know that looks like several new positions. One of the things we wanted to note that some of these positions are also ongoing from prior years. So I'm going to give an example, which is that for BC Transit, due to COVID regulations, we've had to do additional cleaning protocols. And so last year, that was a one-time ask. And again, that is a new ask for this year. So they're not necessarily net new from prior years, but they are reflected as staffing requests that need to be requested for the 2022 budget. Last, we have several items that are considered maintenance. So we might have new vehicle requirements, things that are needing upgrades for equipment. And we'll talk a little bit about that in some of the budget items, projects that are approved. All right, hopefully I'm not pressing too many buttons and we're going to go too far ahead here. 1 sec, just got a delay. Okay, whoop, yeah, there we go. Caught up. So some of the 2022 proposed projects specific to the services that the town of Gibsons participates in is we have several items for the Gibsons and District Volunteer Fire Department. There's over $750,000 worth of investment proposed. And one of those items is a replacement of one of the fire trucks. We also understand there has been a fire commission that was held earlier this month to deliberate some of the decisions there, most notably committing to annual and regular capital investment towards their capital plan. So again, they do have a budget proposal for approximately $75,000 of new investment towards their capital plan. And there are some options being presented to round 2 on whether or not we can delay or cut that in half somehow. So again, that's some of the decisions coming around 2. We also have our post-closure funding for our Seashell landfill. So if anyone who has remembered past presentations, we definitely discuss our funding requirements for closure of the landfill, which is scheduled for 2025. Again, this is reviewed annually as far as how much space remains in that particular landfill. But of course, we have some regulatory requirements in order to close that landfill and make it either a transfer station or whatever the next stages are. So we've identified in our financial statements that we have a significant deficit or unfunded liability for these requirements. We also have one of those carry forward projects called our Stage H. So one of the active phases needs to be closed, and that's over a $2.5 million investment. And that's one of those carry forward projects. So all of those types of things really just say that we don't have enough cash to really fund our future requirements for our landfills. So again, we're infusing another $100,000 into that particular fund for this year, and that's tax funded dollars. We also last year really made a commitment, the board made a commitment out of a strategic plan to really focus on its climate resiliency. So one of the projects approved this year is to do our community climate plan development. And so we're really getting started on a lot of that work. We're also doing a lot of investment to BC Transit. And again, we have identified, already discussed one of the COVID-19 expenses there and some of the staffing and cleaning protocols that we need to do there. One of the positive things with BC Transit is out of the provincial federal COVID restart funding, the BC Transit service also received significant money, recognizing that COVID has significant implications. So a lot of these particular projects, namely those additional cleaning and those staffing, are being funded through those funds. So that means no tax dollars associated with those. We also have several upgrades to our recreation facilities over and above the annual investment to the capital plan. So the board is back on track to ensure there's funding of a little over $750,000. And we have additional projects for the recreation facilities, various regulatory upgrades. So for instance, when we upgraded our Seashell pool and transferred it from the salt water back until a chlorine-based pool, there's some several safety upgrades that we need to do to be compliant with those types of things. We also have some of those ways to how do we reduce our GHGs for some of our facilities as well as part of our climate plan. So just speaking of the high level numbers, our operating budget after round 1 was projected to be approximately $52 million. And again, for those of you who have seen our budget grow over the last few years, I did look to see in 2015, our budget was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $36 million. So a lot of growth in the SCRD's operating budgets over the various years. For the town of Gibsons, most certainly you don't participate in every one of these particular services. However, a lot of our dollars go to our recreation and cultural services. So those are community recreation facilities, as well as our grants that we contribute to our libraries and our museums. We also have a significant amount of our budget that goes to our water and wastewater services from the regional district standpoint. And our environmental services includes our solid waste services, and transportation includes transit. From a capital investment, and again, this budget of almost $42 million does include a lot of those carry forward projects from multiple years. So included in that is our church road well that's underway now. So we got approval for that at our last infrastructure services meeting on the 13th. And again, recreation and culture, that also is a significant amount of our capital budget, because of course we have significant capital infrastructure in there. Most notably in our recreational and cultural services is a project for our community parks, which is the replacement of the Cooper screen, which is over a $3 million project that's included in our budget there. So lots going on from a capital perspective here at the regional district. So also one of the most notable items that the Sunshine Coast has seen is significant rise in assessed values. And this has been reported in our local newspapers, provincial newspapers, and the Sunshine Coast, as most rural communities in BC, have saw a real migration from the urban centers through COVID. And so we most certainly haven't been immune to that and have really seen the effects. So some properties on the Sunshine Coast saw an increase as far as 46%. And really from the regional district's perspective, most of these were up in our Area A, Egmont Pender Harbor location. They actually saw the biggest rise in the residential class. So from the SERD's perspective, this does have a significant impact on the tax apportionments, as our taxes are based on assessed home values most of the time. So from the overall numbers, this is cumulative for all of the Sunshine Coast. So it does include this town of Gibsons. So for 2021, over to 2022, sorry, there's a little typo there. The last total is that we saw an overall increase of approximately 34% for the overall Sunshine Coast Regional District. Now, increase due to non-market changes. So that's due to growth. So those are new developments. We saw just under 1.5% on the Sunshine Coast, and the increase due to market, the average change was about 32.79%. So just getting into some of the rates. So we haven't articulated our utility rates because, of course, the town of Gibsons doesn't participate. This is just an estimation of what we expect the parcel tax for community recreation facilities to be. Last year, again, this is still being worked on and finalized for 2022, but we do estimate that there's going to be a small reduction for our community recreation parcel tax. So Lorraine, hopefully you're going to be getting some of that information sometime soon to review the parcel tax roll. So as far as what the proposed tax rates look like, and again, these are still very much in draft, and we provided a few scenarios in this particular slide, and also we embedded some of what the assessment increases have done to some of the tax rates. And so for 2021, the SRD tax rate for the town of Gibsons was approximately $217 per $100,000 of assessed value for the residential class. So based on the 2022 assessment increases, you see that that rate has really significantly declined. And that particular value articulates if we didn't ask for one, we kept the same requisition as 2021. So it really just shows. But this is quite relative in the case of if your property increased 30%, you kind of almost end up with the same tax value as you did in the prior year. It's just because your assessed value has increased quite significantly. So the 2022 preliminary tax rate after our round one budget deliberations are now estimated about $186.54 for the town of Gibsons. And that is all the service, those are combining all the services that they participate in. So from just what does that mean from the tax value? And of course, we understand that this is only the SCRD's portion of the town of Gibson's bill. So of course, I know that your staff take these values and crunch them as to what it means for your tax rate. So from the SRD portion, if you got a $500,000 valued home, we're looking at about 933 and doubling that if your assessed value is somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million. So where do tax dollars go for the town of Gibsons? The majority, of course, is the recreation and culture. So community recreation is one of the largest requisitioned areas. Again, the Gibsons and District Public Library is part of this as well. We also have the protective services, so the Gibsons and District Volunteer Fire Department, and also a large component of the requisition to the town of Gibsons. And then again, transportation, so BC Transit and solid waste being the other significant services that the town of Gibsons participates in. So again, what's next as far as our information sessions? That's what we're conducting today. And we do have another one to our District of Seashell tomorrow. So that'll conclude our public presentations. And we do have again, our round 2 budget deliberations happening January 24th. And for anyone seeing, those are, of course, our public held meetings. So people can ask questions and attend those particular meetings if they want more information or have further questions. And our budget bylaw is scheduled to be adopted at the February 24th board meeting. So we've also included our Let's Talk SCRD budget webpage. So that's for anyone who wants to come ask some questions. Those are responded to live. All of our budget information can be found there as well. So we'll take any questions if there are any now, and I will also stop sharing.
Tina, would you, Tina, would you go back to the second to last slide, the one with the pie chart for Gibsons, please?
Sure thing.
Yeah. Good, yeah, thank you. I'd just like to leave that up for a minute. And Council, just give you a little bit more of a breakdown on that pie chart. Starting with recreation and cultural services, that includes Dakota Ridge, our contribution towards Dakota Ridge, the pool and the recreation facilities, the museum and the library. Those are the activities that we participate in under recreational services. There's planning and development, health services, that's the cemetery. So you all have access to the cemetery one day. You might all want to be there. So we want to keep that open. Environmental service, of course, is solid waste, the landfill. And that's where our contribution there goes. General government, it includes community schools and other aspects of general government. Protective services includes 911, the Gibson Volunteer Fire Department, and emergency planning, all things that we contribute into. And then, of course, transportation services is transit, the buses. So those are things that we recognize when we say them. There's nothing there that we don't recognize that is contributed to. Money's not going to support water. It's not going to support sewer activities or anything of that nature. That's all dealt with by other governments on the coast. Our overall, at round 1, our overall tax change is approximately $128,659 increase to almost a $3 million budget that we have. And at this point in time, it's sitting at 7.92%. I would like to see that go lower, and we're looking at options to do that, including we contributed, as you recall, several $1,000s to the library to reduce their budget request. That should impact the overall percentage. As well, as I say, we're looking at options with the fire department on the $75,000 capital contribution. So we're looking at ways that we can reduce that budget number percentage increase for us. But there's nothing on that chart that you don't recognize as a service that is generally received by people in the town of Gibson. So just wanted to make that clear. So, well, thank you, Tina, for that. And questions. First of all, I'll go to council for questions because I am going to open it up to the public for any questions. But go to council. Do you have any questions about the budget this year? Councilor Gindrad.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tina. I have a specific question because I want to know if the SRD will be able to buy the incinerator to deal with knotweed and other noxious species. Last year, it was somehow promised that they were going to make an effort. So I wonder if this is in the budget. I don't think it's a big thing compared to the overall budget, but I just wonder if you're aware.
I'm going to pass it on to, I believe GM Rosenboom might have more information than I do on that particular item.
Thank you very much for the question. There's no budget item related to incinerators at this moment. There has been discussions within the SRD staff to see if we can pilot a project this year to see how we can actually manage invasive species better on the coast. However, it is so that any invasive species, if double-bagged, can be disposed of at the landfill. But they will be charged, residents will be charged. So there is a disposal option for most species available. However, that does not apply to knotweed. Knotweed is best treated on site and not being incinerated as well, because then it needs to be transported, and then it's high likely that it will spread through the community. So the provincial recommendations and the federal recommendation to handle knotweed is actually to treat it with chemicals on site.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Ludwig.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. That was a great report. I was just wondering if there's anything budgeted for stormwater management in Area E. You know, we are hearing all sorts of complaints from residents about how our stormwater management plan kind of interacts with yours, and just we're recognizing that we need to have some dialogue collaboratively on this. And so I was just wondering if you guys have that earmarked at all for works this coming year.
I will take the question as well. Stormwater management is actually a responsibility of Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. So our ability to actually influence that is only through responses to referrals from the ministry on subdivision approvals. And in that, we are always referring to the importance of good stormwater management, but the actual decision-making there based within the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure.
I actually knew that. Thank you, Remco.
Other questions, Council? Councillor Kroll?
Thank you, Mayor Beamish, and thank you, Tina. You mentioned money towards the post-closure funding for the landfill. I'm just wondering what funding has been budgeted for investigation of an alternate landfill.
So we do have past budgets, and I will defer to Remco as far as the next status to that. So that's a good question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. There's still a budget that was approved as part of last year's budget process to further explore the opportunity to create a landfill on the coast or to create a transfer station somewhere on the coast to transport our waste off coast. More steps on that project will be undertaken this year, with the hope that by the end of the year we would be able to at least have a good sense of what is possible from a financial, regulatory, and technical perspective.
Thank you.
Thank you. See no more questions, no further questions from council. Rebecca, would you please invite any members of the public to come forward and raise their hands with you and see if they have any questions on the budget?
Yes, if any member of the public would like to speak, please raise your hand. I see that Donna Thomas has already been moved over. She has her hand up. Go ahead, Donna.
Can you hear me?
Hey, Donna, yes, we can. Welcome.
Thank you. I would like to ask two questions. Our protective services, does that include insurances of any kind?
Insurance for the facilities, or
It's any kind of insurance. Like I think of insurance as being a way to protect ourselves, and wonder if there's a budget for if what we have to insure is a regulatory thing or whether it's part of our budget.
Tina?
Yeah, no, so we've got several types of insurance. We actually provided a report at the end of our November CAS on the types of insurances that we do participate. So we do have several types of different insurance policies. Those are included in what we call our support service allocation mostly, and also through various individual budgets. So things like boiler insurance would go through our community recreation facility, so that'd be part of their budget. Liability insurance and those types of things. So protecting our directors and those types of things would be in our general government. So I guess the answer is yes, we have various types of insurance. We also participate in the municipal insurance agency. So that is sort of a pooled fund through local governments. We participate in that, and it's a very cost and economical way to get insurance. And also for our fleet, we have various insurance that we cover for that. So yes, many insurance policies.
Thank you. And my second question is, when you were speaking earlier of the responsibility for stormwater management being a MOTI responsibility, I'm curious as to whether this is an appropriate question or not. I don't know, but I am wondering about staffing, MOTI staffing on the coast. Is that ever taken into consideration when we look at what we wind up having to deal with?
If I could, Tina, I think that the MOTI on the coast, they're present in an administrative capacity primarily. The contract is to Capilano Services for the maintenance of the roads and ditching and issues that arise, so that they actually have a contract. So Capilano, is it Capilano Highways or Capilano is the contractor for MOTI on the coast. So when you see them here, they're the workers doing the work for MOTI on their highways and stormwater repair, because I don't see them doing a lot of stormwater prevention.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Donna. Are there questions?
Yeah, Donna, I'm going to lower your hand now so that later you will need to raise your hand again if you wish to speak again. I don't see any other hands raised, Mayor Beaman.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Tina and Remco and Dean. You didn't get much to say. Do you want to add anything, Dean? Or...
I think Tina and Remco covered it very nicely, and really appreciated the opportunity to provide the presentation tonight. And by provide the presentation tonight, thanks, Tina.
Thank you. You're now on the record, Dean, you see? Thank you. Thank you very much, all, and we appreciate it. And I'll look forward to our round 2 discussions on Monday. Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much.
Take care. Okay, we're back to our agenda, and our next delegation tonight is Buddy Boyd and Dennis Olson, Sunshine Coast Electric Vehicle Association.
I will just move them over, just one moment. They're both with you now, Mayor Beaman.
Okay, I see you both. You're both still muted. Buddy, Dennis, can you hear me? You're both.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, Dennis, you're there. Buddy, and Buddy's there. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to start your videos, or do you want to be unseen? There's Buddy. Good. Welcome. Yeah. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Okay.
I can't get my video to start.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I'll have to go with no video.
Okay. So who's making the presentation? Who wants to start?
Oh, here I am.
Oh, there you are.
Okay.
Yeah, you made it. Yeah.
Well, I'll start. Okay, my name's Dennis Olson. I'm a board director with the Sunshine Coast Electric Vehicle Association. And thank you for letting us come forward tonight with a proposal. Of course, we're looking for more access to electric vehicle charging stations in Gibsons area. And well, the Electric Vehicle Association has been involved in a number of installations with chargers. And at the moment on the Sunshine Coast, just to digress a little bit, Powell River has a DC charger. That's the fast charger next to the ferry terminal. Madeira Park has a fast charger just at the entrance to Madeira Park on the highway. And of course, Seashell has two of them in the Clayton's parking lot there for the mall. And BC Hydro is, for the most part, paid for most of these chargers. Now, Gibsons has no DC charger at the moment. And through BC Hydro Clean BC, they're looking for communities to install DC chargers, particularly through the north and remote ones outside of the Lower Mainland. So we would qualify under that one quite readily. And over the past year or two, we've gone with staff and looked for some locations throughout Gibsons and talking to the EV drivers and the association. We were looking for locations that would benefit particularly the people who have electric cars, who would like to get an electric car, but they don't have access to charging. Typically, they don't have a driveway. That's people who have to park in the street or in apartments, and they have no access to charging the cars. And I don't know, does anyone on council have an electric car?
Not yet.
Not yet? Soon you will. Soon you will. But if you'd learn right away that it's very difficult to get a charge in Gibsons. And there's the one at the arena is often full and you can't get on it. And the ones down by Wine Garden Park are also used quite a bit. And the reason we were looking to support or spearhead a DC charger is because we become a destination for electric vehicle. And just to give an outlook on where we're going with these EVs in the future. Norway, for instance, in December, 90% of the cars sold in Norway in December were electric cars. And in Europe, it's almost 12% of the new cars in December were electric cars. Now, in North America, we're not quite near we're closer to 3%, but it's growing exponentially. So we're going to need just not a few chargers, we're going to need lots of chargers and probably in the very near future. So we've gone and we looked at a few locations and with staff, that some of them aren't there anymore, but we went around the town and looked for places that would be suitable. And the three came up, the most likely would be, the most useful would be the curling club. It has a large service, lots of parking. The town owns the building. The arena, also, it's the SCRD and has lots of parking there, and they have a very large service there, a new building. And the third one would be at Wine Garden Park, right near well pump number 4. There's a large 3-phase 600-volt transformer there that's running the well, and it's greatly oversized for the well. It could easily handle 1 or 2 DC chargers. And this is one of the locations that BC Hydro is looking for, where it's easy installs, where they've already got plant in place, like transformers and conduits and things, and parking spots that are close by that whoever owns them will give them license to put the chargers there, because they don't want to put them there. They're going to have to move them right away. Now, there's 2 level 2 chargers, the slower chargers there now. Everyone knows of these 2 chargers, I'm sure. Okay, well, that's where this transformer is. It's in the bushes there beside the generator and the pump for the well 4. And it'd be very simple install to do a DC charger there. And that would be highly used by the EV traveling public, because it's right downtown, basically. Well, not up, down, but downtown. So there's lots of shops and things close by. parks and places to wait for a short time, 20, 30 minutes to charge your car up. So what we would like to do, we're proposing, is that the town allocate 2, maybe 6 of the parking stalls in that area for future EV charging, and allow us to present that to BC Hydro, maybe a letter from the town saying that they would like to see chargers in those spots and would be happy to assign a couple of parking stalls for charging. Now, I think Buddy Boyd was going to add a little bit about some of the benefits of charging and tourism. Buddy?
Yeah.
Thanks, Dennis. Thanks, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to present to you guys tonight. I'm also Board of Director of the Sunshine Coast Electric Vehicle Association. And as you guys probably know, I've been driving electric cars for quite some time now. And we're currently up in the Shuswap at our tiny home. And ironically, today I was in Sycamoose, and they've got 2 brand new fast chargers in the town of Sycamoose. And Sycamoose is kind of smaller than Gibsons, but it's really, I've talked to the folks here, and they've really tapped into the whole tourist EV tourism. Is it actually a thing? And as more and more electric vehicles are getting more range on them, they can travel farther, and so many EVers now are just going on journeys and ventures to go and explore. So EV tourism as a thing is we've contacted the Gibsons Chamber of Commerce, and they are 100% behind us in this effort, as well as Sunshine Coast Tourism. And I think we're long overdue for Gibsons to get a fast charger for our community, especially with now people using commuters. And as Dennis mentioned, there's a lot of folks who don't have access to a charger at their home because they're in a condo or a townhouse or something. And this gives our commuters a great opportunity to use zero emission vehicles, which is what we're all trying to achieve, is lower our carbon footprint. And as a community, we'd be sending out a message that we welcome EV tourism and we support the locals who already have electric vehicles. And lastly, I really think this is an important thing to kind of hoist aboard here, is that as we start to realize, and our previous board meeting here we just recently had, Dennis pointed out something, that the Sunshine Coast is per capita the second leading, I think, how did you word that, Dennis? Per capita, the electric vehicles?
Yes, we're likely in our region, we have more electric vehicles per capita than anywhere in North America right now. We've got more Teslas in British Columbia per capita than they do in California, where they make them.
So that being said, is that we literally are leading in many areas of electrification and solar installation. And I really think this is a great opportunity, especially with BC Hydro providing much of the funding for the town of Gibsons to work with the Sunshine Coast Electric Vehicle Association and see if we can kind of fast track getting at least 1 or 2 fast chargers in the town of Gibsons. I've talked to several of the merchants. They're all for this, because let's face it, a lot of our merchants have taken it on the chin with COVID and everything like this. This could be a little boost in the arm for them as we can start working towards actively attracting EV tourists to our community. And what do EV tourists bring? They bring money, and they like to spend especially in Lower Gibsons. But I'd love to see a fast charger in Lower and Upper Gibsons, but at least starting in Lower for the foreseeable future. Anyways, I know you guys are tight on time, but that's my end of the presentation. EV tourism, Chamber of Commerce, they're on board, and I appreciate you guys giving us the time to make this presentation.
Thank you, buddy. Just a question to both of you. What is the process? Is it just a matter that the town makes a decision to allocate space and writes to BC Hydro when they appear, or is there costs associated to the town?
Yes, it's exactly that simple. We just have to let them know that we would like the charger. They're looking for communities that put the DC chargers right now. They're going
Okay.
all over the province.
Good, okay. Councillor Kroll?
Thank you, Mayor Beamish, and thank you, Dennis and Buddy, for the presentation. Back in July 21st, I attended a BC Hydro meeting, and this issue of the fast chargers came up. And at that time, I had a brief discussion with staff about areas we might be able to include them. The cost per station that BC Hydro indicated to us was $250,000 per station. Now, the partner, being the town or the mall or whoever wants to put it in, the cost of them is $12,500. BC Hydro contribute $100,000. The BC government contributes $50,000. Natural Resources Canada contributes the remaining $100,000. At that time we had that meeting, we had 1 week to get in our invitation to that. It closed, the closing, I think, was in October. It was a 3-month delegation conversation period. The installations would begin in the spring of 2022 if you got approval. And I think we missed that window. So I don't know if they do it in sort of waves. At the time, they presented us with a map of areas that had been approved and they were working on the installation. But something I do appreciate, Dennis, with your background, knowing where the power is in the town, because it does require the ability of being able to provide DC power to the installation. And that isn't always available everywhere without going to the cost of putting in an inverter. So, I think, it's something we really need to work on. The statistics presented at this meeting, they were saying in BC, 30% of the new car sales were EV at the time of the presentation. So, it seems to be the direction we're going. As we get sort of staff replenished, I think it's something that we need to bring back to the table. But if private people like the Sunnycrest Mall or the IGA Mall wanted to do it, that it's a 10-year lease you have to engage in with BC Hydro.
Yes.
Councillor Ludwig?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to thank you, Dennis and Buddy, for bringing this to our attention, because sometimes that's all it takes is just raising an issue and then it flags it for us, and we're coming up to budget discussions, so it's great timing. Thank you very much. I do have a couple of quick questions just so I understand it a little bit better. Once these things are put in place, do people enter their credit card? Is that how it works?
Yes, it's 21 cents a kilowatt to charge your car. Yeah.
Great. And so then my other question was, I just want to make sure it wasn't like a free charge that the municipality was paying for, but we just need to get the infrastructure in place now. I understand. Okay, and then my other question is, Councillor Kroll kind of alluded to it there, is, why aren't we putting these in at gas stations, for example, or where someone that needs to pull up and buy a few things and use the washroom? Like, why not? It just seems like a logical location. Like, why is it municipalities why are these being put on municipal land versus private land, like the mall or what have you? So I'm just kind of curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, we're trying to speed up the adoption. In Northern Europe, for instance, Shell is converting gas stations to electric. They're putting little computer stations with a coffee bar and a convenience store, and they're taking out all the fuel pumps and putting in DC chargers. And that's the wave of the future, and it's coming here as well. Okay. But good. Sometimes the local governments have to initiate this thing to get it rolling.
Right.
You might be interested to know that we are putting electric bike charging stations down in Lower Gibsons, so that people can actually hook up to a bike rack and charge while they're visiting town. So that will encourage that bike tourism as well. So So, but it does sound like a budget items. We'll probably need more money, more information relative to the actual cost, 2022 cost going forward. But we are in budget now, and being prepared for that would be very helpful. Yeah, buddy, that EV station that's on the access road that I think you had put in there years ago, that one seems to have ivy crawling all up it. What happens when an EV station dies? Is that what happens?
Which one are you talking about, Mayor
The one up,
Beamish?
the one up here by your recycling depot.
Been
Those
recycled?
were donated. They actually were upcycled. The new owners of Gibsons Recycling donated them to the SPCA, and Olson Electric installed them, and also the solar panels there. So they've just been transitioned over to,
Oh, okay.
because they were just running out of space with the new owner. Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know of any, a couple of our members and I did an audit of all the chargers on the Sunshine Coast and 2 months ago, and we can make that available to you if you'd like. But 100% of all the chargers that are on the Sunshine Coast are all operational.
Great, good. Yeah, good. Okay, well, thank you very much. And when you did your survey, town Dennis, who from staff were you working with? Is it Dave Newman or
Daniel.
Daniel? Okay, and he's moved on, so we'll have to revise that with David, so and see what we can do for 2022. So thank you again very much. And hopefully one day we'll have I'll have an electric vehicle. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, right now I'm still in the early 2000s in my cars.
Get a bicycle.
Yeah,
Electric
that's right. That's right, will do. Yeah. All right, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thanks, you guys.
Yeah. Okay, before we carry on, well, as we carry on, we're going to item number 6, which is inquiries. And at this time, I invite anybody to come forward with any inquiry about anything that is on the evening agenda for this evening for discussion.
Yes, Mayor Beamish, we have Donna Thomas again. I'm just going to let her in.
Thank you.
Donna, you are
Hey, you're there, Donna. How are you? Donna, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes.
Good, thank you. These questions actually, I got my protocol wrong. I think I wanted to ask Buddy or Dennis, but in general, I'm curious about the leases that the town would when we get the electric charging stations. And there's a large investment by the province and by, I forgot the 3 people that were, or the 3 groups that were involved in the investment for the.
Sound like BC Hydro, the province, and the federal government.
Oh, the feds, okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering, and this, I hope this also isn't out of line. Do these stations become the property of somebody or other, or do they stay belonging to either the private person or the town, depending on where they're installed? Does property change hands in any way?
No, I don't think property doesn't change hands, and I suspect it's the device probably retained ownership by BC Hydro since they're collecting the funds from it. Yeah,
but, and they can move it, so that would be okay. And
that's right.
And that's okay. Then I don't need to ask the other question about whether or not we have to be concerned about whose territory these things are installed on. Okay,
no, I think
thank
we're
you.
okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. Other questions?
Yes, we have Judith Bonkoff. I'll just be moving her over.
Thank you. Judith?
Okay, I'm unmuted.
You're
Hello.
unmuted, yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So my question is regarding the electric vehicle charging stations. And I am pleased to see, I mean, that the presentation, and I really can't emphasize enough how important this is to have more charging stations. The one we have in Lower Gibsons, I'm wondering when that will become a pay station.
I don't have an answer for you on that. I don't know if they can convert that over. That might be a question we'd ask BC Hydro as to whether or not the existing stations that are in town there and at the arena, whether they can be converted to pay stations or whether they are simply now old technology. But it'd be a good question to ask. So perhaps maybe Councillor Kroll has the answer.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. It's an interesting situation. I brought up at the meeting I was at with BC Hydro, because I said with the cost of $100,000 to put in a charging station, do they recover the cost through the charging fees? And they actually said, even on the stations that you pay at, the difference between what they recover and what the station costs is deferred over everyone in the province's hydro bills.
So we all pay.
So it's part of the cost of going green. So, there is a huge incentive for people to go electric car, because right now we're paying for it anyway. So we might as well embrace it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see no further hands raised, Mayor Beamish.
Thank you very much. We'll proceed with the agenda then. And the first one is the committee reports and Public Arts Advisory Committee. And I've asked the corporate officer to share her screen in terms of the proposed art path as we go through this. First item on this, though, is the minutes of the December 22 meeting of the committee just before Christmas. A number of issues, as you can see, were raised in that, primarily around the Thrive grant. That's what we were meeting to discuss and how we would proceed. And everybody's very thrilled with the opportunity to move forward with this. Part of what we planned to do, and which we did subsequently on January the 3rd, although quite a rainy day at the time, cool day, we did walk with a committee, and we walked from Armours Beach. We didn't go all the way up the top of the English Trail, but we went up to Stewart Road and then returned back. Initially, we were looking for and thinking of doing it would be as a loop trail. And one of the ideal loops is actually the extension of Stewart Road, which goes on to Spyglass up at the corner at the Mariner Park up there. There's don't have the full right of way yet. They've got the majority of right of way, but that would be an ideal type of loop to be building in the future. So, but when we did walk, we identified several spots that were potential for art pieces. Primarily looking at this is both going to be a trail guide as well as displaying new art. In the downtown core, there's quite a bit of art that already exists. And that the trail would be guided through trail markers through the downtown core as well as along the waterfront. And we would go by the art gallery, for example, and there's art pieces there. There's the murals at the museum, murals at the water station in Lower Gibsons, the front of the public market on the wharf, the carvings on the wharf. So there's a number of already pieces that exist in the town. And so that those would become part of the art walk. What you see on the screen before you are ideas for options for new installations. When we go out to request for proposal for art, we'd identify these options that the artist could look at and see if what they would design uniquely for those locations. So an artist, for example, might choose to make a proposal for a piece of art on the English Trail, perhaps, and that they would look at the location and the siting of that and make a proposal that's specific to that location. And so the number of locations, we anticipate that this first call, based upon the budget, we would be able to do between 5 and 7 art pieces, roughly looking at approximately $5,000 per piece as a budget item. And then we're also looking at the specific opportunity for perhaps a Squamish Nation artist, so some competition there in terms of a Squamish Nation artist putting some artwork. So the idea is that we would proceed to put out a call for proposals and submissions, and that we would proceed through that. We have developed a call for submissions that would be used. And then we would look at as a committee, making a jury in those prospective pieces of art and awarding the two artists as appropriate and as the budget allows. So as we go through because of the budget, we're looking at a finish date for this project of September. Originally, it was going to be June, but because they were delayed so much in getting the award in the project, it extended it to September for the project. So the artists would be invited to make submissions there. We have, as you recall, in the public art policy, a number of guidances for what submissions should look like and consideration in terms of materials used and maintenance and maintainability and protection in terms of graffiti and things of this nature. So we'll be looking at those. So the idea is that we would proceed to put out a call for artists very shortly, very quickly, and see what happens. Looking forward to submissions being received. I don't have a date yet as to what the return date on those would be, but is I do have. Sorry, we're looking at February 28th, at the end of February. So as a return date, anticipating then that would take probably another month or so to jury the things and look at them, and then award specific financing to artists to produce their pieces over the next the summertime, being completed by July, so by September. So that's in terms of that. We're also looking at, and I've been quite delinquent in terms of Brothers Park building mural. The building that we have at Brothers Park there on the playing field by the skateboard park is constantly hit with vandalism by tagging. And we did receive a suggestion from a member of the public that we should look at that and maybe put a mural on there. Murals tend not to be vandalized as much, especially if they are done by youth. So we're looking at talking to people who are experienced in developing murals, primarily working with a high school, the art group in the high school, and seeing if we can do a mural on that building. We have approximately, I'm going to say $3,500 in our public art reserve, and that is by the time we need to use those funds, it'll probably be closer to almost $4,000. And then if depending upon what kind of proposals we get, as I say, I've been delinquent. I talked to one artist. I want to talk to a couple other artists and see what they would propose and what kind of budget they would propose for a project like that. We discussed new committee members. We didn't make any decision on that. We actually have one vacancy on that committee. And then we also talked about the trying to work between GPAG and something with regarding the Holland lands. So it protects a potential for the Gibsons Public Art Gallery to work with the Holland lands project team to take a look at options for perhaps some synergies on that. And then future art auctions to raise funds. And yeah, basically that was the extent of our meeting on December 22nd and subsequently the walk on January 3rd. So council have any questions? Councilor Ladwig.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I just want to commend you for doing this. I think it's fantastic. This is really what I was hoping to see.
That's good.
I love it. It's fantastic. It's really good.
Yeah. I know you appreciate the amount of time it takes to work on a committee too. That's
Yeah,
right.
and this is
Yeah.
one that I was really, I really wanted to participate in, but just didn't have the time. So I'm thrilled to see.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Kroll?
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. I forwarded a letter to you that I received from Rotary, and I'm just wondering if you have
Yes.
an opportunity to follow up with them.
I have a meeting scheduled with Luke tomorrow and to talk with him about that. And what Councillor Kroll is referring to is the Rotary Club has expressed interest perhaps in supporting this project as well with some of the signage and some of the work along the trail system so that it could be a good marriage of support. So I just haven't talked to the committee about it, but I'm going to talk with Luke from Rotary this week and see that. One of the things I did show the committee is that last time I was up in Haida Gwaii, the trails system there, the trails are marked, color coded by a good size, say a good size medallion of a Indian First Nations art piece, and thought that would be a good tie-in with the Squamish Nation to tie in with the trails, and then there could be some verbiage along with that. But they follow these medallions in different colors will take you to different locations in town and different paths around the trail, and so that something we would follow up with the Squamish Nation as well, looking for an artist who might be prepared to design the medallions for us, because they're very nice. I suspect they're very collectible, so we might have to keep a reserve of them so that they don't get peeled off the wall. So they are metal. So yeah. So with that, I guess the minutes have been received, and if council has no further questions about where we're going and moving forward with this, you will see a call for submissions. And we are talking about artists that and people who have close ties to the art community. Siobhan Smith, who is the art coordinator for the district of Seashell, is on our committee. Diana Robertson, Anne Marie Brown, another artist in town. Myself, not an artist, but I've juried twice for the Gibsons Public Art Gallery in the past, in terms for the yearly shows. So we have some experience in working with artists. Stuart Stinson is on GPEG. Tony Bardash, who lives across the street from the town office here, is an artist. So we have a good group of very dedicated people who are really encouraged to see this project move forward. And thank you for your support. Thank you. Okay, I'll move next to the 7.2, which is the Committee of the Whole meeting for January 11th, and a recommendation. Well, the minutes have been received, so we'll go down to the recommendation on January 18th. And that is that staff be directed to initiate community notification of the process outlined in policy 1.26 to provide comment to the Liquor and Cannabis Regulation Branch on the liquor license change for a permanent patio at Tapworks Brewery located at 537 Cruce Lane, in town of Gibsons. So this was a presentation we heard at the Committee of the Whole this afternoon. Does somebody care to make that recommendation? Councillor Kroll, thank you. Second by Councillor Ladwig. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor? Thank you. We'll move that forward. Next is council reports. Give council an opportunity to raise any questions or make any reports on activities. Councillor Kroll, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. Well, as we had council reports last week, there isn't an awful lot. I attended the BC Ferries Sunshine Coast Advisory Committee meeting on January 17th. a lot of the recurring issues continue to come up, just a couple of the high points. Queen of Surrey is going in for a refit. Not necessarily is it going to be a lot of stuff that we're going to go, oh, wow, isn't this impressive? A lot of it's going to be happening behind the scenes.
Lost you, Councillor Kroll. You're muted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Beamish. As I was saying, I attended the Sunshine Coast Ferry Advisory Commission meeting on January 17th. A lot of the issues are ongoing issues that we've had. The Queen of Surrey is going in for refit on February 7th, and it'll be gone until probably mid-April. We're getting the Queen of Cowichan, or Queen of Coquitlam, sorry, as the vessel in place during its absence. BC Ferries launched that sort of ill-fated program last year that received a lot of sort of public ire just because people felt it was dumped on them. But the reasoning behind that program was to try and get the traveling public dispersed over a broader part of the day. Currently, the ferry system operates at about 75% capacity. So when people say we need a second boat, we need this, we need that, the Ferry Corporation initially looks at the overall capacity of the system, and we're operating, at about 75%. So they brought in the Fare Saver program to try and encourage people to travel in alternate times. So it's been reasonably successful. It's taken some of the pressure off peak periods, and it was supposed to end this month. It's been extended into March, and it's going to be, with continued review. The ever hope that we're going to have two ships, that's probably been put off for yet another 5 years, depending on funding across the corporation. But right now, it's not looking too good. And that would also apply to the upgrade of the terminals. The Langdale terminal is sort of on hold for the moment. Work is ongoing at the terminal in Horseshoe Bay. The reservation, there's still questions about that. The assured boarding for people that are traveling because of medical issues. It's an ongoing dialogue with constant sort of back and forth between the community and the ferry. Assured boarding for residents. Again, another issue that hasn't seemed to be any sort of immediate resolution to it. One of the big things is who's a resident? If you own a cottage up here and you pay taxes up here, does that make you a resident? There's a whole issue of, is it based on homeowner grants? And the corporation's ability to deal with some of these issues. How, do you slow boarding down even more when you do 20 questions with someone behind the wheel of a car? If one person in the car is a resident, does that qualify the vehicle? So there's a lot of issues there that are ongoing dialogue, but it was a fairly productive meeting. I noticed that Judith Bonkoff also sat through the 2.5 hours of it. So kudos to Judith for her persistence there. This morning I met with the SCRD board and our MLA, and there were a few concerns there. I have distributed the minutes of that meeting to staff, but on the whole, some of our concerns were raised with respect to the housing issue, BC Housing and their capacity to, sort of get the ministries talking, where you have a situation where housing is provided, provide the support for the people in that housing. Just don't put a roof over their head. There needs to be a human interaction with mental health and other services to assist some of these people. So that was noted. I'm just trying to think if there's anything that's absolute. I was expressed a little concern of where we are financially with the province with $33 billion worth of damage being done to infrastructure, money that the provincial government has poured out with respect to COVID. The MLA assured us that the provincial economy apparently is quite buoyant. I guess when there's $33 million worth of damage to infrastructure, it creates a lot of jobs repairing it. So even though they're spending money, it's money that's also going back into the economy in getting people back employed and getting people into the workforce. Even healthcare costs, although, it's been a huge burden to the healthcare system, people are being employed, even if it's extra cleaners and things like that. So even though the money is going back into the economy. And that's about it for what I've been up to since the last council meeting.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Kroll. Well, for myself, probably last week we had SCRD infrastructure and board meeting. So those are held on Thursday. Takes a day out of the life to participate with the SCRD. And then on Monday, I had a meeting with Mayor Seegers and myself with Silas and Mark and representatives from Seashell who were working on the poverty reduction grant and talking about both the poverty reduction grant and homelessness and the issues around the funding and the projects going on. So there was a good conversation about what's happening and what is planned to come forward. The poverty reduction grant is going to be applied for by Seashell, and it'll be for the entire Sunshine Coast. So we'll be part of that process. Yesterday, I also had a meeting with the Watershed Security Coalition, and they are concerned now with keeping the province's feet to the fire with regards to a plan for budgeting. We should hear news shortly about the pre-budget plan for this year, talking for 2022 relative to watershed protection. There'll be a public engagement period, and then Treasury, and that will run through to the end of the year, and then a Treasury Board submission going forward for funding for poverty reduction grant. And we just need to watch that project as it goes forward and make sure that we are not poverty reduction, watershed protection. And the fund, if it's properly put together, could support rebuilding natural defenses, strengthening watershed governance, and bolstering and monitoring and adaptation. Now, I spoke to them because, again, almost every one of these meetings I attend, people are talking about lakes and rivers, and they're talking about protection of their drinking water asset or their freshwater asset in terms of a lake or a river. And I spoke up on behalf of aquifers and said, look, we have an aquifer, and we have an aquifer that's being heavily impacted by both residential, commercial, and industrial development. And one mistake could impact drinking water for 10,000 people. And we simply can't afford that mistake to happen. And so we need to be part of this going through. And the key messages that are coming from this group are that the fund is important and urgent. The fund needs to be prioritized. And they're talking about fund first. In other words, make the money available as quickly as possible, and then complete the planning as you go along. And then the fund design should reflect key principles. And the areas that the key principles that they're looking at are that see if I can grab them. I took screenshots of all of the slides that they had. But looking at the fund is important and urgent. The fund needs to be prioritized, and fund should reflect key principles. So it ongoing project. We will learn more in probably short term, because what this group is going to do is give us talking notes, talking points, and briefing notes that we can present to our own MLAs and use to talk about for protection of the aquifer and protection of our water resource. Very important work. We're not alone. It's important all across the province and with First Nations. And I think one opportunity we have here will be to partner again with the Squamish Nation relative to protection of the aquifer, both for our aquifer immediately that impacts up at Elphinstone, but also the rest of West Howe Sound. I mean, Grantham's Landing. Well, they're going to get Church Road, but Hopkins and Langdale, they're all on aquifer water. And so that it's very important that we protect the whole area. So we will see that information start to materialize to us shortly. I attended another watershed water meeting this morning that was UVic and Polis, and that was relating to data collection and data management. You know, the kind of things that stream keepers collects. It goes out, takes the temperature of their water, they count the fish, they look at the condition of the streams. You know, that information is fed into DFO, but we don't retain it locally. So where stream keepers are working on Sharman Creek and Gibsons Creek and other creeks in the area, the information is not retained locally for us to make decisions on. So looking at how we can better coordinate and have access to that information at a local level to build up a database over time to see how creeks are being impacted. And you know, when you go down from stream keepers, you look not only at you look at the clarity of the water, you look at the volume of water in the river. So you over time you have that record. And there's, you know, I'm part of stream keepers for Gibsons Creek, and although with this recent weather and things, I haven't been down there doing the temperatures and things, but I'm absolutely amazed at some of the work they do. I went out with a fellow from Langdale who looks after Langdale Creek, and his process is extremely scientific, the way he approaches it. And he'll walk that creek and he'll make several readings as he goes along, and he documents them all and puts them up in a spreadsheet and looks at the conditions of the creek. And so, and he has underwater cameras. He actually looks in kind of deeper pools looking for fish. It's really quite amazing. I don't have that. So we'll see what we can do. So, okay. So anyway, that's primarily where I've been focusing my attention and in recent days. So apart from getting sick and going to Vancouver for 3 days to look after my son's dog, that's what I've done. And that was interesting. So, okay, we'll move on then to correspondence and recommendation to receive the correspondence. Well, we've already received it. So is there any other items on that correspondence list that bring forward? Councillor Brad?
Oh, I thought you were going around and for.
Oh, I was. I'm sorry. I was expecting other people to actually raise their hands. You go ahead.
Well, there's also a youth counselor here, right? Evie Clark.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I forgot that. I'm sorry.
I have just a quick update on the 14th. I participated on the Ocean Watch Action Committee, which is part of the Howe Sound Community Forum and, you know, arm of the biosphere. Very interesting, actually. The Nicholas Sontag Marine Educational Center did a presentation on their project. One of the highlights that I thought quite interesting, since, you know, I have been discussing with council and made a request that our DPA2 are focused on ecological resilience. The District of Squamish right now is updating their environmental DPA, and that's what they say. It's focused on resilience, so lots of opportunity for habitat enhancement. So I think that's important to not only we, you know, I think is even a commitment at the Biosphere Reserve, but we are on the same page. And they are doing incredible habitat enhancement, restoring the river on the historical courses, right? I believe perhaps council is aware of that. But I thought it was interesting that at this moment, the focus is on ecological resilience as well. So I really would like to see our DPA2 update focus on that too, opportunities to increase resilience, ecosystem resilience and species resilience.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, Mr. Councillor Ladwig, yes.
I'll just say really quickly, because I know we're tight on time. I attended the Gibsons Public Library Board meeting on Monday, and thanks to Mayor Beamish for bringing this up with the COVID fund. Just want to let folks know that they are continuing to have a few plumbing issues in their bathroom, and Mayor Beamish raised, the issue of possibly supporting a few improvements with the COVID fund. So there's been some discussions about them needing to make some repairs, and we might have that discussion during budget time. Wanted to bring that up so it's not a surprise for folks when they see it.
Thank you. Evie, do you have anything to report?
Alfie's been pretty slow. Everybody's just adjusting, getting back. We have semester change next week, so everybody's heads down on finals right now. So there's been, all the clubs have been pretty minimal right now, but I'm sure as the new year develops, there'll be lots to add.
Good, thank you. Yeah, good. How is the school environment relative to COVID? Is it a comfortable place to be?
Yeah, because it's been so long, everybody's pretty used to it now.
Yeah.
It's been a while. We did have a few changes over the winter break, which has been a bit, we have like a new bell system, which has been a bit weird to adjust, but everybody's come to terms. It's just a new normal for all of us at school.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you all. I apologize for skipping through that so quickly. Now we'll go to correspondence. Correspondence has been received. This is for the week ending January 10th. And ask if any of these items anybody wants to bring forward. Now, I wasn't here last week, and had I been here, I had intended to bring attention to one item of correspondence. One that concerned me and probably a little bit offended me, and that's the suggestion that Town of Gibson's councillors and staff didn't do enough over Christmas time to support the community. I'm disappointed with that type of observation because I think that there's not a recognition, nor do we go out and tell people what we do all the time. And I want to say that I took a few minutes and based upon where I was and what I saw and who I was with, I was able to calculate that approximately 93 hours in December were volunteered by town council members and staff in terms of supporting community activities. The Christmas dinner, the Salvation Army kettle, the Crash the Coast, and the cold weather drop-in. We have staff members who sat down at the cold weather drop-in, taking a shift there in terms of to give Silas a break. We had Councillor Kroll out on the highway collecting funds for Crash the Coast, a record year again. The Christmas dinner, we had staff members working the Christmas dinner. We had council members working the Christmas dinner. And I really do think it's unfair for somebody to sit down there and suggest that council members don't do enough in this community. And I can tell you that the person who made that criticism was not present at any of the places I was present at. And so that he must have done his volunteering somewhere else. And that was great. I appreciate that when people do volunteer, but I don't appreciate when people criticize other people for whatever reason that they did not see them around. So I just wanted to bring that up. It's frustrating when people make those kind of statements. We shouldn't go around tooting our horns and saying what a great job we do, but at the same time, we shouldn't be defensive. When we do things and we're criticized for not doing things, I think we should respond. So that's just my bit on that. 93 hours that I'm aware of, because these are places I was at with people who I saw, and that doesn't cover everybody. So I assure you, I just wanted to make that statement. And we'll move on and see if I can find my agenda again. No unfinished business, new business. We have the 2022 Salish Sea Ecosystem Conference. Recommendation here is that registration costs for Councillor D'Andrade to attend the 2022 virtual Salish Sea Eco Service Conference be paid by the town of Gibsons from the council conference and seminar funds. Yes, I'd like to see you do that, Councillor D'Andrade. Would somebody care to make that motion? Councillor Kroll, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Ladwig. Any discussion? Do you have anything to say about it, Councillor D'Andrade?
Oh, actually, because it's virtual, the costs are so minimal, it's $50. I used to go to this conference years ago and the costs were really way higher. So that's good. It gives us an opportunity to participate. And frankly, it's more comfortable, right? Because you can look at, anyway, so I appreciate, I think it's very important to follow up. There's a lot of partnership between Puget Sound and British Columbia and State of Georgia. So I think, and Salish Sea, and I think it's very relevant to us here now that we are a biosphere. And there will be actually people from the biosphere present. I think Fiona is going to be presenting on the conference. So it's going to be really exciting.
Good. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you. You're approved.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Kroll, you had your hand up?
I'll speak to Councillor D'Andrade on the side. It was just a news item that came up with respect to people fishing in just out of Canadian waters, but impacting on the marine environment within our waters. And if it's an issue that comes up at the conference, I'd like her to raise red flags all over the place. So I'll speak to her separately. Thank you.
Okay, and no notice of motion. We'll go back to our second inquiries. Are there further inquiries from the public?
See one hand raised. I will be moving Donna Thomas over.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Donna.
Welcome,
hello.
Donna. Yep.
There's Donna. Never a dull moment with me around. I'd like to ask. Thank you. The watersheds, the key principles that were being spoken of earlier. I have a question. Is the partnership that are going on with this watershed, with this looking at our water, our First Nations we're partnering with First Nations, the Squamish Nation, I would assume. Are those partnerships? Are those something that's been written up? I mean, I want to know how strongly they're. Can you tell me a little bit about how firm the working together on the water issue is?
When we had a November 3rd, I believe it was, we had a watershed workshop. We had 54 people there. There was a member of the Squamish Nation from the Rights and Titles, and he spoke at that. Our intention right now is to follow up this year by putting together a watershed support committee for this area and bringing that in place, including with the Squamish Nation. Now, I'm waiting to receive a copy of the updated watershed study that Watermark is doing for us. That, as well as the Source to Sea project, to bring people back together to talk about the watershed and the initiative to have somebody from the Squamish. We would like to do that. I've actually asked Patrick Weiler if he could assist in making that happen with us. Their priorities are elsewhere, but we do always reach out to them to participate. I've asked Patrick if he could facilitate a meeting with the Squamish Nation and particularly looking at the watershed, among other things. We have other issues, but working with we have a strong working relationship with the Squamish Nation through our staff, through art. We need to do it incrementally through projects, and the watershed is one, so that we will be working with them on that. Right now, the committee, the SCRD appointed a committee of myself, Donna McMahon, and Mark Hiltz as a committee on the watershed. I'm looking for the terms of reference for that. I've asked for it. I haven't seen it. But what I'm assuming, because the three of us were appointed, that it is a watershed committee that relates to West Howe Sound, including the Elphinstone watershed. I don't need to be working on something for Egmont, so that I'm hoping that's where the focus is. So I will keep council and the community informed on that. I keep working on watershed issues as I can and participating. I am a member now of the Watershed Coalition, the Security Coalition. So I attend those meetings on a regular basis. I have not seen members of the Squamish Nation yet attending those meetings either, but today there was, I think, 100+ people at the UVic workshop. So, Councillor Dindrad?
Yeah, just an update, because during the meeting last Friday, one of the things that highlighted the Squamish Nation just hired 2 people in the environmental area.
Okay.
One is environmental analyst, who's going to be focused on rights and titles, and the other will be manage the climate strategy. So perhaps there will be more opportunities. I know they're investing a lot in this area.
Capacity has been an issue for them. Yeah. So,
yeah, they are increasing capacity. So hopefully soon they will be able to provide more.
We will keep them informed as to what we're doing, and we will always invite them to attend and participate.
Thank you. It wasn't so much the inviting, it was a matter of whether or not, as you say, they're busy with other things right now. But to my mind, if it's important that they're involved and working with us in order before we say we're working with the Squamish Nation. I'm not putting this very well. Anyway, thank you for answering my question.
Thank you, Donna.
I see no further hands raised, Mayor Beamish.
Okay, well, thank you. And thanks, members of the public, for attending tonight. And Evie and Colton, thank you very much for coming. And we are going to go to an in-camera session now. We appreciate your time. It's a school night. Hey, you should be studying. So thanks very much for being with us. I'll take a recommendation of council to close the meeting in accordance with section 91C of the discussing proposed corporate structure changes and enforcement of the building bylaw term, the community charter, labor relations, and bylaw enforcement. Motion, Councillor Ladwig, Councillor Dindrad, all in favor? Thank you very much. And with that, we bid you adieu. Thank you. Take care. Good night.
Good night.
Now we'll take a break while we get ourselves organized.